Hey guys, welcome back to World of Warships. Today we're playing a ship that I'm very surprised I like. I had an excellent time here playing the Ignis, Purgatio, and the Ragnarok. They are exact copies of each other. It's just going to be the skin that is different. These ships are based on the Amagi, and if you know me at all, you know how much I hate the Amagi. I've played it an absolute ton, and I do not like it. It's a ship that, way back in the day, I got started with competitive play in World of Warships with, playing Supremacy League years ago. If you guys remember that, let me know down in the comments. But it was a tier 8 league where you would play battles against other teams. A little bit like clan battles or Kings of the Sea, except it was entirely community run, I believe. And I was an Amagi player. A very unwilling Amagi player who was told to lock down flanks, and that is where Amagi's very good. It really doesn't die all that quickly, it angles really well, it's a fast battleship as well. It's really, really good in those scenarios. However, its dispersion is a little trolly, okay? And that's what I did not like at all about it. In competitive play, it's even more frustrating when that one cruiser gets away without taking damage, flat broadside, when you know the game could be decided by that, and you get unlucky. I did not have the best time playing Amagi in that situation. We still had a good experience though. Honestly, I really did enjoy competitive play back in the day. And with these ships, Ragnarok and Ignis, I did not really want to play them much when they were initially announced for the 40k event. This is years ago. These ships have been in the game for quite some time, but with this event coming back here, this 40k event coming back, this update, I thought we'd go over them, and I had a really good time. I was surprised. I really was. And the only difference between Amagi and these two ships is the Sigma parameter and your reload. That is it. Much like the Baji at tier 9, you lose out on some reload rate in favor of 0.1 better Sigma, which is the tendency for your shells to go towards the center of your dispersion ellipse. So here we have a 33-second reload instead of a 30-second reload on Amagi. In exchange, we get 1.9 Sigma instead of 1.8 Sigma. And that sounds really minor, doesn't it? And yet, we're going to see here that I had generally really, really nice salvos with this ship, the Ragnarok as well. We're going to switch off between the two. I will gladly give up 3 seconds of reload in this case for that better consistency. For me, playing battleships is all about single decisive salvos, positioning my ship in such a way that the enemy is forced to give me broadside, or I predict where the enemy is going to go, and I'm in the perfect spot to catch them off guard. And if I miss that salvo, I'm a little bit frustrated, I'll admit it, all right? And with a ship like this one, I just enjoyed it way more than Amagi. These ships are not cheap though, and that is a very minor difference to go from a tech tree ship up to a premium. It's nice to have a premium. If you are interested in a premium Amagi, then these would be a great example for you. Key is also available, but that one goes the opposite route, where you get even worse Sigma, but in exchange, you start to get some longer range torpedoes, as well as your secondaries being a little bit better on that one. Generally though, prefer dispersion. These ships are available for nearly $70 Canadian. That is not cheap. Or if you go in the armory, it's 13,000 doubloons. Not cheap at all right? But if you are at all interested in picking these ships up, you should know that I believe they are a slightly better version of Amagi. Not by too much, but for me personally, I massively prefer the better consistency here. 0.1 Sigma should not be that noticeable, and perhaps if I went back and played Amagi some more, I would get similar salvos, some good and some bad, like that last one. But overall, while playing this ship, I did have a better time. And keep in mind, I really am biased against Amagis of any kind. So much so I even refused to play these ships when they were initially being introduced, or the many times that they've come back for sale. But I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just that this update hasn't had much content outside of some of these events returning. But I decided to play them, and I'm glad I did. I really am. I am very happy that I could enjoy my time here with the Amagi. You're going to see that I have a bit of a weird build, okay? I don't think necessarily it's the right build to run on this ship, but I'm running a bit of a hybrid build with some secondaries. These ships, the Amagi and the Ignis and the Ragnarok, all have improved secondary accuracy on the large caliber guns only. The rest of them are not improved, so that's going to be the smaller 127mm guns. Those have bad accuracy. But the 140s, the casemate turrets, those have the buffed up accuracy like we see on the Schlieffen line. So they're actually pretty useful. They don't have the best PAM as far as DPM goes at your tier for secondary DPM, the hitting DPM, let's say. They're actually not bad. You're just behind Zeton as far as hitting DPM goes. A little bit above Brandenburg, a little bit above Key even. Surprisingly. I did not expect that. I don't think you should full run secondaries on these ships. You're going to notice that in brawling situations, these ships are not meant for that. Amagi is certainly meant for the mid-range flanking role. That's where you want to be in a ship like this one. But I also found myself having a lot of fun trying to push flanks and getting myself into closer range scenarios. And the secondaries did a lot of extra damage to destroyers. It's a lot of points to spend. It's probably not good. I'm probably just coping here on the better damage to DDs that I'll show you in some future clips here. But it was fun, all right? I had a good time with it. You know me, I enjoy brawling. I enjoy the close range gameplay a lot more than the passive sniping meta. So even on a ship where it's not as good, taking some of that helps me to have more fun with the game, shall we say. This is what you want to be doing, though. This here is going to be another tier 8 example. This ship is very good when you're top tier. It's okay into full up tiers too, but when you're top tier, wow, this ship is absolutely amazing. You're going to want to go to a flank. You're going to want to get in a kited position because that's where you're going to have the best firing angles. Forward firing angles actually aren't all that amazing here on this ship. You got to give 37 degrees, where backwards you give 35 to fire everything. And if you only fire your rear 3 turrets, you can get that at 20 degrees. Quite good. Huge hits here, even into a Normandy. Was not expecting a Citadel on that guy, but we will gladly take it. And notice how we're just slowly kiting away. We've unfortunately lost our DD up here, and that is a big problem for a slow, clumsy battleship when the destroyers can torp us out. But if we just slowly push away when we're angled, not full kite, we don't want to run away, but we want to slowly stall out the enemy's push. We can tank a lot of damage when we're angled, and those few secondary hits every once in a while, man, that can sometimes mean the difference between a destroyer surviving or being taken out. That is a massive change to how playable your flank is, especially if your DD has gone down. That could just be cope, all right? I'm just trying to justify my secondary pick. I'll accept that, all right? I might just be incorrect on that. But I'm having fun, all right? Kansas about to get behind the island. Another 12k hit. Surprisingly consistent, especially considering my somewhat heavy bias against Amagi from years ago. Probably too hard on Amagi, I probably am, but I'm really enjoying how good the accuracy is on these guns. I will gladly give up that little bit of reload for that improved accuracy. Few secondary hits here on the destroyer, and the damage output is pretty decent. We're still going to shoot our main guns, of course. We definitely want to be taking out these destroyers. Looks like our Purgatio will finish them off, but really strong at holding on to flanks. Pushing in, pushing flanks is a little harder, obviously, but holding on to flanks like this one, slowly kiting away, making sure you don't take too much damage, giving a lot of broadside early, and then being that sponge a little bit for your team, taking a lot of that focus fire. You can do that against your own tier. Against up tiers, it's a little harder. There's a lot better HE spam at range. The armor on these ships is not great. It's 32 millimeters everywhere, and that means even into tier 10, every once in a while, you'll run into a Yamato or a tier 9 Musashi that's going to overmatch you everywhere. You can't play that role nearly as well. But into your own tier, even into tier 9, a lot of the time, you're not going to run into too many of those overmatching ships. Buffalo here over pushes and just consistent hits. This ship has 10 guns, and to be hitting more than 50% of our shells, even at these closer ranges, I think is really, really good. This is not at all, at least my experience with Amagi in the past. And yes, indeed, we do manage to finish him off. 2 salvos there. Teammates did help us out a little bit there, but still really nice and consistent. And a ship like this one kind of has to be consistent, don't you think? Yeah, Amagi was released a very long time ago, but it's a very vanilla battleship, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but to have this level of consistency is almost required in today's day and age of so many gimmicks that all the new ships tend to have. And a premium version, it's a very expensive price, 13,000 doubloons, nearly 70 Canadian dollars. That is just probably too much to ask, in my opinion. Really wish they would introduce these ships and their camos for a more reasonable price, especially the camo thing. If it would be more like the Transformers event where you can buy the camo for the tech tree ship, that would be cool as well. Maybe have both as an option if you want to buy the premium ship outright or just the special camo for the tech tree ship that it's based on. I think that would be much more interesting. That way it's not just an event that only the biggest of whales can really get excited about just because the prices are so high. If you're just a newer player to World of Warships and you've been looking at these, just go get yourself an Amagi and you'll have basically the same playstyle. It won't be quite as consistent. I probably am overdoing the inconsistency and the frustration of Amagi, all right? It's been a while, and certainly being in a competitive scenario back in the day didn't help things for probably overemphasizing that inconsistency. Pushing in a Ragnarok or the Ignis here, maybe not the best to give flat broadside, but considering the hull we have, it is a little bit tricky to Citadel this ship. It shouldn't be based on the armor scheme, and yet in battle, I find it doesn't actually get Citadeled all that often. Turning in, definitely a mistake to go broadside to the Preußen at that range. Wasn't expecting him to push out of his island cover there. But we're going to get good damage into this guy. We have a lot of help, so that's part of the reason that we can afford to push him. But decent damage out of the main guns. We're taking a lot in return. Those forward firing angles, 37 degrees, not helping us. But it's only full pens. It's not necessarily those citadels that we really have to watch out for. His secondaries can definitely tear us up, though. They all pen 32 millimeters of armor, which is what we have, which is why we're melting here a little bit. Saving our heals and that, and then going in for our last salvo here. He is very broadside. He won't take citadels, but we're going to get good full pens in on him. We had a lot of help, but even in a tier 10 game, finding ways to push flanks and that can be a lot of fun. It's very rare that you get tier 10 games like this one where you're able to get at closer ranges and that, but it happened once or twice, so we do have to show that. Blucher here about to go broadside, and this is where we need the salvos to land. This guy is going to kite off the screen if we let him get away, and we could do some damage in. We got a little bit of overmatch against him, of course, but we'd much rather get the dove strike, don't you think? I found just really nice, consistent salvos, for the most part, out of this ship. Even into tier 10 games, racking up a decent amount of damage, helping our team win this game. It's a ship, though, that absolutely crushes into down tiers. Against tier 6, it's really not even fair. Can we take a moment to appreciate this flank that we're on here? It's a Farragut, an Aoba, and a Fuso is also what spawned here, against basically a better Amagi, a Metz, and a Fubuki here. Is that fair? I don't know if that's exactly fair, Wargaming. I think you could afford to do a lot better on your spawn positions. I've noticed this a lot. Anytime I'm in an up tier, especially if I spawn on a flank, not necessarily the middle of the map, but on a flank, maybe I'm the tier 8 in a tier 10 game. What spawns opposite me? Of course, it's the enemy tier 10 ships. That's not very fun. And in a game like this one, I'm the tier 8, and what spawns opposite me? Of course, it's the tier 6s. So for me, I'm having a great time because I get to just run at these poor tier 6 players, and there's really not a whole lot they can do. I will, however, point out this Aoba did a great job of torping me. He really was patient and waited for me to do my one dodging action I can take. It's not a very fast ship to accelerate, or its rudder shift, very slow. Turret traverse, very slow. So anything we're doing, it's going to be quite slow. So that's why I was trying to predict his torps. And a lot of players would have just dumped their torps immediately when they had the angle. And I think this guy waited for me to do that turn in. So props to him. But still not a fun experience, obviously. That's not going to be that enjoyable to run into a Metz, burst firing tier 8 cruiser that hits harder than a battleship a lot of the time, and then an Amagi, which you just really aren't going to take out all that quickly. It's a lot of HP to go through, and it's very tanky, especially against those tier 6s. Matchmaker's hard, all right? And for a tier 8, I do have to talk about being up-tiered a lot of the time, but you're not going to always be up-tiered. And just as frustrating as it is and difficult as it is to play a tier 8 into tier 10, I think it's just as difficult to play these tier 6s into tier 8. I don't know what the fix is there. It's not like our player population is going to be exploding anytime soon to allow for +1, -1. But even in a very vanilla ship with a little better dispersion, mind you, so we get salvos like that. Basically an Amagi, though, with slightly better dispersion, you still just absolutely crush these lower tier ships. It's a tough thing dealing with matchmaker issues. And we still can take a pretty big hit from the Synop there. Do have to watch yourself in some of these down tiers. Synop does have pretty powerful guns, but is that really the best experience? I don't know. Where you're steamrolling everyone in the down tier and you're kind of hiding and cowering and trying to figure out the best way to slightly impact the battle in that double up tier. I don't know. But that is the experience for 13,000 doubloons. I had a surprisingly good time. Not good enough to warrant buying a ship like this one if I wasn't a CC and had access to play these things for you, but I did have a pretty good time in it. Again, these two, the Ragnarok and the Ignis, really are just clones of one another with different skins on them. So pick the one that you like best if you're planning on buying them. As for the build here, yeah, I should not be running this, but I was, and I had fun with it. But you really should be running extra heal, something like that, or basic survivability. If you're worried about the turret traverse, newer to the game, you don't always know where enemy ships are going to pop up, Grease the Gears is very important because your turret traverse is very, very slow, over 40 seconds. I was taking this A in defense upgrade skill for the 40% consumable prep time in those games where you have carriers. It's very useful, I find. As for the equipment, though, yeah, we're not going full secondaries. Of course not. We need the main gun accuracy. I already told you, I really value my accuracy on battleships. Really need that. And for these ships to be a little more consistent than Amagi is pretty much the whole reason I had a pretty good time with them. So definitely want that aiming systems mod. The armor here is, yeah, it's 32. This was good back in the day. I don't know if it's that good these days. A lot of HE gets through you, and at higher tier, we're seeing certain battleships with enough to overmatch you. The Citadel has a small amount of turtleback. It's kind of that waterline idea, so maybe that's why we didn't actually get Citadeled. The turtleback's not particularly angled well, so it's not going to auto-bounce shells up in that. But it's layers of armor, spaced armor, all that stuff can help you out. Surprising how little damage this thing takes when it's angled. And if you're in a kiting position, that's really where this ship shines at its tankiest, I think. You don't have to go as broadside to shoot all your guns, and you can see there's a little bit of better armor here on our stern. And that can help bounce or shatter some shells that are coming after us. Maybe some of that plunging Citadel fire if there's overmatch. There's a little bit less of that. Very good ships overall. I gladly would be willing to give up 3 seconds of reload for the improved Sigma. Here's the other one, by the way. Interesting camos, if that's your thing. Unfortunately, if you want just the camo for your Amagi, that is not available. Would be nice for that to be an option. That way it's not so expensive to get into this event. But that is going to do it for today's video on the Ragnarok and the Ignis, which are basically just Amagis with better guns. The cooler Daniel, right? Surprisingly, really not that much with this new update for me to go over. So that's really why I'm playing some of these event ships out and seeing what they're like here. And with these two in particular, I'm pretty happy I did. I am surprisingly in favor of these being in the game. I really do enjoy a little better accuracy on Amagi. But let me know what you think in the comments down below. Thank you very much for watching, and have a great rest of your day.